Hey, welcome! Think of this as our own visual field guide, where we're going to explore some of the most incredible blueprints for life. We're about to uncover the amazing adaptations that let fish, reptiles, and amphibians totally master their worlds, from the bottom of the ocean to right here on dry land. So let's dive in.
Okay, first things first, we need to get one big idea straight, because it applies to pretty much every animal we're going to meet today. The whole cold-blooded versus warm-blooded thing. Now, it's not really about how hot or cold their blood is. It's all about how they control their body temperature. Cold-blooded animals, they rely on the outside world, like a lizard sunbathing on a rock to warm up. But warm-blooded animals, like us, we're basically walking furnaces, generating our own heat from the inside. Nailing this down is absolutely key to understanding how these creatures survive.
All right, with that in mind, let's jump right into our first chapter, Masters of the Water. We're going to see just how perfectly fish are built for a life completely submerged.
So how do fish move with such grace? Well, it's all in the fins, and they basically come in two main designs. On one hand, you've got rayed fins. Think of a delicate paper fan, just webs of skin held up by these super thin rods. Then you have lobed fins, which are much beefier. They're attached by a lobe, which has a single, strong bone surrounded by muscle. Just two different but equally brilliant solutions for getting around underwater.
A fish's first line of defense is its own suit of armor, its scales. And as you can see, they come in some really specialized shapes. You've got the placoid scales on sharks, which are literally like tiny, sharp teeth. Then there are the tough, diamond-shaped ganoid scales that interlock like tiles. And on most bony fish, you'll find the more flexible cycloid and ctenoid scales. Each one is a unique type of natural protection.
Living in water is actually a huge challenge. You've got to maintain the perfect internal balance. See, a freshwater fish is constantly fighting to keep too much water from flooding its system, while a saltwater fish has the opposite problem. It's trying not to lose all its water to the salty sea. The elegant solution? Their excretory system. It acts like this super sophisticated internal filter, making their urine either really dilute or really concentrated to keep everything perfectly in check.
Ever see a fish just hang out in the middle of the water, not sinking, not floating up? How do they do that? The secret is this little internal balloon called a swim bladder. And the system is brilliantly simple. The fish just adds or removes gas from the bladder. This changes its overall density, letting it stay perfectly buoyant at any depth it wants, using almost zero energy. How cool is that?
Okay, get ready for one of the weirdest transformations in our field guide. Let's talk about the flatfish. They actually start out life looking like a normal fish, symmetrical, one eye on each side. But as they grow up, one eye literally migrates across their head to join the other one. This strange journey perfectly prepares them for a life hiding in plain sight on the ocean floor.
Now, skates and rays look so similar, it's easy to get them mixed up. But there's one really simple way to tell them apart, and it all comes down to how they have babies. Skates lay eggs, usually in a tough little pouch people call a mermaid's purse. True rays, on the other hand, give birth to live young. That's the key difference between these two cartilaginous cousins.
All right, let's crawl out of the water and onto dry land for Chapter 2, where we get to explore the super diverse and tough world of reptiles.
The reptile class is basically split into 5 major families, and each one has a standout feature that makes it unique. You've got lizards with their special color-changing cells, snakes, famous for being legless and having those incredible jaws. Turtles, of course, are the only ones with a built-in shell. Crocodilians are known for their super thick skin and, surprisingly, for being pretty good parents. And then there's the ancient tuatara, which has a light-sensing third eye right on top of its head.
This leads us to one of the most classic, mind-bending questions about animals. Seriously, how do they do it? It looks completely impossible, right? So what's the secret to a snake pulling off this incredible feat?
The answer is a whole suite of amazing design features working together. First, their jaws aren't fused shut like ours are. They're double-hinged and can literally unlatch and spread super wide. Next, their windpipe, their trachea, can actually slide forward, kind of like a snorkel, so they can still breathe even with a huge mouthful. And finally, their skin is incredibly stretchy. It's a true masterclass in anatomical engineering, all for being a super-eater.
People mix up pythons and boas all the time. And yeah, they're both big constrictors, but you can usually tell them apart by 2 simple things: where they live and how they're born. Pythons are mostly from the Old World, Africa, Asia, Australia, and they lay eggs. Boas, on the other hand, are mostly from the New World, the Americas, and they give birth to live young. Simple as that.
For our final chapter, we're going to look at a group of animals that are basically defined by change. Get ready for the transformers of the animal kingdom, the amphibians, who live a fascinating double life between water and land.
You know, salamanders have 3 completely different life strategies. Some are wholly terrestrial, meaning they live their entire lives on land. Others are wholly aquatic, and they even keep their gills when they become adults. And then you have the newts, which are amphibious. They start as larvae in the water, move to land as juveniles, and then often head right back to the water as adults to breed.
And now, for maybe the most famous makeover in all of nature, a tadpole turning into a frog. It is such a remarkable step-by-step process. First, the hind legs pop out, then the front ones appear. But the real magic is happening on the inside. Gills get replaced by lungs, the whole digestive system gets replumbed for a new diet, and finally, the tail gets absorbed. And just like that, a fully formed frog is ready for life on land.
So what in the world is this creature? At first glance, you might be totally stumped. It looks like a worm, but it can't be. It has a backbone. It kind of looks like a snake, but nope, it doesn't have any scales. This is a caecilian, and it's a perfect example of why it belongs in its own unique branch of the amphibian family tree.
Okay, as we close our field guide, let's just quickly go over the highlights. We saw how fish use swim bladders to achieve perfect buoyancy. We learned how snakes have that incredible anatomy just for eating. And we witnessed amphibians go through a complete body transformation to live between 2 different worlds.
Every single animal we looked at is a master of its own environment, equipped with these unbelievably elegant solutions to the biggest challenges of life. So that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. What can their incredible adaptations teach us about the sheer scope of what's possible in the world? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.